everyone, and welcome to Off the Cuff, where the headlines come to life. Today we have Lara Galloway, author, speaker, and coach, and author of Moms Mean Business. I love this title. Very exciting and very to the point, because moms do mean business, certainly on different levels. Lara, thank you very much for joining us on Off the Cuff. You're an author, speaker, and a coach. Talk to us about those three roles and how you decided to be inspirational to others starting business, and have you had your own business as well?
Yeah, well, you know, they say necessity is the mother of invention.
Of all invention, absolutely.
And so that's what got me started. I never started out wanting to have my own business and to be an entrepreneur, but when I became a mom, I found that the opportunities for me to live a life according to my priorities by working in corporate America were not happening as readily as I wanted. And what I mean by that is, you know, my desire to be a part of my kids' lives, to really be there for them, to raise them, to have time off, to have the freedom and flexibility and even the fulfillment of purposeful work that means something to me, wasn't happening anymore.
You know, they say to try to find a balance between home and work. I don't know if that animal really exists. Is there a balance? I mean, you just sort of have to do what you have to do. But because I'm missing that ship, certainly.
Yeah. I have a calm, peaceful, and happy life. I will tell you that. It's not balanced. I don't think we worry about that.
Will that rub off on me?
Okay. Okay. There, I'll give you a little bit. No, I live my life. It works on my terms, and I'm in control of how that goes.
How many kids do you have?
I have 3.
Okay.
They're 12, 10, and 8.
Okay.
And
you're calm.
Teachers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. I mean, it's getting so much easier. I could not.
This is going to be a great interview,
this.
because we're going to want to find out.
Right. There's no magic, but I could not have said that it was calm and peaceful and really satisfying a few years ago. There was a lot more, you know, upheaval when you have really little ones.
Sure.
And I work with a lot of my coaching clients are in that stage where they've still got what we call the rugrats or the ankle biters, you know, the kids that aren't in school yet and take up all your time. So surely don't search for any balance at that point in your life. Just there are different stages that we pass through.
Absolutely.
And I'm hitting my stride in a really nice stage right now. Our family is hitting a nice stride. My business is also hitting a nice stride. So those, I focus more on the different life stages that we're in, and I teach my clients, who typically are moms. These are women who are the first responders, we call them, in their family. They're the chief everything officers, CEOs of their families and their household and their businesses. And so they've got multiple priorities that conflict and yank on them all the time. So,
what's your background in terms of your educational background?
I'm an English major and a Spanish minor, and I have a comparative literature master's degree. And that makes me very good at thinking and speaking and reading. And
Clearly.
how I use that every day, right? I use it every day. But then I spent years at IBM in public relations, communications, and sales. So,
Okay. So basically, it was more your life's experience that decided that gave you the broader vision of trying to help moms and trying to influence their careers in a positive direction.
Yeah.
So Moms Mean Business. Talk to us about this. What's the actual content of your book?
Well, so I'm a life coach and a business coach. I got my certification and training in that back in 2005. And what I find is that, you know, everybody in the world, I mean, I think it's kind of common these days to hear everybody needs a mentor or everybody needs a coach. Everybody can benefit.
It's
in some
scary
way.
out there. Absolutely.
It is. And you're, you know, a mentor or a coach is someone that's going to help you take some shortcuts that get you closer to your goals a bit faster, right? Like in summary.
Sure.
Moms Mean Business is a do-it-yourself coaching book. We find that although everybody we know needs a mentor or a coach, they aren't always willing, prepared, or choosing at that time to get one, but they will read a self-help book. And they will get some insight and actually put in action some of the exercises we say to do in there. So the point of it is, you know, one of the big cruxes of the book is that it all rests and hinges, you know, on your desire and your ability to define success for yourself. And what I've found through the years, both with myself and my friends and colleagues and all the people I've coached, that we're not very good at defining success for ourselves. We're good at watching it on TV or seeing it in other people or, kind of
or just
listening
going
to what
the
our parents
day-to-day
always said. Yeah.
kind of things that we have to do.
Complacency, yeah. We just get caught up. And when you actually, if you sit, if we walk into an auditorium with 100 people and you give them a piece of paper and you write down, define what success means to you with no pretense or preface or anything, some people will really struggle with that. Not many people will have I've thought about this before and here's how I define it. It'll be like,
Well, a lot of people don't really have time to think about what they want. They're just sort of going, like I said, day to day and just trying to accomplish what needs to be done rather than what they want to have done.
And the challenge is,
Sure.
You can certainly do that. Like, that's a choice, and I'm not making anybody wrong for doing it. But at the end of your days, when you're 90 and you're looking back, you want to be able to say, wow,
I could have,
I'm
would
so
have, should
happy.
have.
Yeah, see, I don't want that. I want to be able to say, wow, I am so grateful for the life I've lived.
Sure.
I'm so proud, I'm so pleased of what I've been able to do and the legacy, the impact, whatever it is. What's it going to take today for you to be able to say that when you're 90? That's the work I do.
So basically, in your coaching and in your workshops, the first thing you have on here is define your priorities. So let's say there's a mom who wants to open her business. What would be the advice you would give her in terms of defining what her priorities are?
Well,
Mom, family, business, work,
my first
making
thing is
income.
I have 2 rules right off the bat. Number 1, you can't have 17 priorities. That's not a priority. You can't, 17 is not a magic number.
Shoot.
There is no magic number, but there is a limit to how many things you can actually consider a priority.
And work through.
Yes.
Completely.
Right? I mean, I'm going to challenge anybody. If you tell me something's a priority, I'm going to ask you how much time you're willing to spend on that every week. If you're not willing, if you say, oh, my health, I'm going to lose weight this year, I'm going to get in the best shape of my life. Okay, great. How many hours a week are you willing to dedicate to that priority? Oh, none?
So
You're too busy
accountability
right now?
basically is
then that's
important.
not a priority for you. You just have to own it. We lie to ourselves a bit. We have some weird mind games around things like that. So that's the first step. The second one is, I'm not going to dictate your priorities to you. You're actually going to have to come up with them. And you're going to have to think through, are you being influenced by what your partner, your spouse, your family, TV, a book you read, whatever, tells you should be your priorities? Or are you being really honest that these are the things that matter most to you?
So as a mom, telling you I want to have my business, I want to have an ample time with my children, and want to make sure that my house is clean, and that I'm successful in my business. Now, are those,
reasonable priorities?
Reasonable priorities. Thank you. Yeah, things that we can actually accomplish and do well.
Yeah, sure. Some people can, and no, some people can't. Like for me, the house cleaning part, nope.
That's why I added that in there.
Yeah.
It's like, how do I do this?
Really, it doesn't show on my list of priorities. I mean, serving a healthy home-cooked meal by about 6:30, 5 days a week actually does show up on my list of priorities. So I'm a foodie. I love food is my love language. I really care about it. People in my life, whether they're workmates or colleagues or clients, or whether they're my friends and family, know that if you walk into my house, I'm going to be all over you trying to serve you food, because that's a thing for me. So I would say out of those priorities that you have, that's a good number, say 3 or 4 different priorities. One of the things I might push back on you a little bit about would be checking in, and again, this is just what we do as coaches, we poke around and find things. I would say, where does personal fulfillment show up? Where is something related to your health and well-being? These are things that I have learned I have to ask my mom entrepreneur clients, because we will do everything required to make our business successful and our clients happy. We'll do everything required to keep our household running. We've got toilet paper and groceries and clean laundry, right? And we will do everything required to take care of our kids and our family. But when it comes to taking care of us, oh yeah, I only get 4 hours of sleep a night, and I'm eating, diet, entrees. Yeah. So we don't take good care of ourselves. So I will typically, with the first pass with a client, when they're starting to define their priorities and success, I'll say, okay, tell me about these things. Do these matter to you? Are these things that don't show up on your radar because you've already got them handled? Right? Like for me, I don't have a whole lot of goals around fitness and health because I'm on a regular routine with that. So that's handled for me. I don't have to think about that so much, but it is a priority. And I can tell you, if I were ever offered a job or an opportunity that compromised, like say I was going to be traveling and staying in hotels 4 nights a week, I would have to really think about how that impacts my health and well-being, because I don't sleep well when I'm in a hotel, and I might not be eating well if I'm not able to make my own food, right? So things like that do come into play. So that's what I would do, is I would just start poking around with, it depends on the client, but those are 2 of the first things I usually ask.
So there's trying to find a balance between all of those things. So the next thing you have on here is creating your own definition of success. Now, some people's definition of success is totally different than others. I mean, some people would say, you know, my success is to see 1 or 2 clients a week, you know, and someone else would say 1 or 2 clients every 2 weeks, or, you know, and you know, adding a certain income to that, or it could be the experiences that person has. So how do you wrap your arms around that?
Oh, that's such a great conversation. This is one of the conversations that takes the longest amount of time to get through because it's a rich one, right?
Sure.
And so, again, I guess when I think about, you know, women in the workforce, when I think about a subset of women called moms in the workforce, we are different. We do have some unique needs and unique sets of priorities. But again, these could be also the same sorts of needs and priorities held by men, held by dads in the workplace too. This is just the target demographic that, you know, through the book and in my work that I focus on most of the time. But I would say that when it comes to a definition of success, it's so important to tie back your why to your why. Why are you doing this? Like, you know, at the end of the day, what could make, you know, I've had a business partner for 4 years, and we're now doing our own thing a bit more. But when we joined together and worked together for 4 years, a definition of success for her was to achieve financial stability, security. It was all about the money. I need this amount in the bank, and then I need this amount in a disposable income, and I need this amount for the future, and I need this amount for debt payment. Like, I've got these things, and when I do this, by golly, am I going to be successful, right? Crystal clear to her, because it was answering a need in her lifestyle at that moment. And that's a huge motivator. Every step she got closer to that felt great. So she was driven to work so hard. She was driven to meet with more clients. She was driven to work more hours. And the fact that her health wasn't doing the best right then, well, that's okay. That was not her priority. She made a conscious decision. She didn't sleep as much as she could have. She was willing to sacrifice for a little bit so that she could get to that goal. I have other people who are coming out of, say, corporate America and juggling 3 kids, and they're like, oh my God, the number 1 priority for me now, my definition of success is that my kids know my name and that they are proud because their mother is in their pictures at the field trips. This friend of mine is a serial entrepreneur. She started a few businesses. She went back into corporate America for a bit because she and her husband thought they were going to buy or do another big business. And she got wooed by this company that she kind of worked with before. And, you know, she basically sold herself to the devil, is what she said, and got zillions of dollars, lots and lots of money to put in the bank to forward them in their next adventure. And so that was an example of a priority at that time, socking away that money, the sacrifice thing. But then she was so burnt out. Things were
I can really imagine, absolutely.
You know, marriage on the skids, kids having real issues in school.
Sacrifices,
yeah.
Sure,
and those sorts of things, like those are big ones, big long term. And so for her, a definition of success now is so clearly that involvement in quality time and deep relationships with family again. So, and I guess the thing about the definition of success, no matter how you define it today, it will likely evolve somewhat. Parts of it may stay the same. So
absolutely. Do you think companies in corporate America are a little more, I want to say, sensitive to the concept of working moms than they were years ago? Do you think we're evolving as a country, as a community, in focusing on the family structure a little bit?
I do.
More than before?
I do. I mean, you know, the Yahoo CEO that I can't remember right now that got in a whole lot of trouble for canceling flex time or work from home time for all the work at home employees at Yahoo is a woman. She brought, whether or not she did the right thing, whether or not how you feel about her policy, she brought a great debate into the spotlight about the flexibility that a lot of the Yahoo employees were enjoying, being able to work
Sure.
from home so they could manage some different things and manage their own energy and work time, but also their families. And then, Sheryl Sandberg did a great job with leaning in and, bringing to light a lot of the issues that are maybe self-imposed with us as women, but also things that men could do to support that. And I think corporations have been bleeding great talent for years by letting their top female employees walk out the door because their work-life program does not support being able to choose a path that is not working 60, 80 hours a week.
Sure.
That doesn't let you be there for your kids.
Every time we talk about this, I always have the vision of the show, the movie 9 to 5 with Dolly Parton, and how everything was transformed when they created flex time, when they were, and productivity went up. So it does make sense. I mean, just because of the movie, it was wonderful. I really enjoyed it, and I could relate. But it does make sense when you have the talent to be able to, to have conditions where family is integrated into that.
And I mean, we're in a stage now, not like when the movie came out. We're in a stage these days where technology does make the world so much flatter,
smaller too.
Yeah, we're so much better able to connect with people. I mean, my husband's in China this week, and being able to FaceTime with him is awesome.
Phenomenal.
I mean, he's 11 hours ahead or 10 hours ahead of us, and he's eating dinner. We're just getting up out of bed, and it's amazing. And I do that. My entire team that I've worked with over the years are all virtual. I have nobody that I've ever worked with in person since I've started my business. My virtual assistants have been in Calgary, Alberta, way up Thunder Bay, Ontario, Baltimore, Maryland, Waco, Texas. So all the people that I collaborate and work with, they're all over the world. And my clients are all over the world. And we can join together, across time zones. Like, I convert time zones in my head like this because I do business in so many different places. So that makes it possible. So I think that, yes, the tides are turning for corporate America and for some of the limits that have been put on women and parents as primary caretakers, or as the role they want to have in their families.
So do you find a lot more businesses are being created and managed and maintained more from home than actually, going into like a four walls and an office kind of thing, especially for women? Is that on the upturn?
That is hard to say. When I talk to a client, when they're saying, "Oh, what kind of business should I start?" I'll say, "Well, the easiest, least risk, least cost, up front."
It's online.
Yeah, is online, and in fact, a services business that you market online. Right, the startup cost to sell your brain, is low, and even virtual assistants have huge teams now where they're all parsing out bits and pieces of jobs that get done very quickly to all sorts of different people. So services businesses, I think, are super easy to start up, and that therefore attract a lot of women who are leaving a traditional workforce.
So let's be a little specific. What kind of businesses would you suggest for someone that wants to start their own business? I mean, what do you find is giving the largest rate of return and is manageable?
Again, you go with what you know, and you do what you're good at. That's the first place to start, and then branch out from there. If you if you've always wanted to start a green recycling company and you have zero experience in that, but you're really in love with it, I'd be scratching my head a little bit about that. So I would rather suggest that you choose something that you already know how to do. So, for instance, I worked at IBM in PR and communications. Right, I was a mentor. I was mentored as well. So coaching actually, and I'd always wanted to be a teacher and a professor. Coaching is something I've always done. It is in me. It's who I am. I've been a teacher all my life. So that is a very linear trajectory for me. I didn't see it at the time, but it's totally just becoming more of what I already was. And it used my skills that I had already in place. So that's the first thing I would recommend to people is, can you build off of something you already know? Can you build off of something you already have an audience for, right? So that, a friend of mine who is opening a local retail boutique. It's a gift studio. It's going to be in Birmingham, and she's going to have birthday parties as well at this little place. So it's going to have, studio items that are featuring local Michigan artists, and then little, birthday party services. Well, she's doing that because she knows she's building off an audience she has. So it's going to be a brick and mortar building, but she knows all these artists because she happens to love local artists. And she knows all the moms who have kids who want to have their birthday parties and bat mitzvahs there, right? So that's the world she lives in. That's what she knows. She's making a business choice from that.
So basically, you have to know what your priorities are. You have to know what you love to do and what you're good at to do in order to focus on what you'll be successful at. So those are, you also have the other concept, overcoming your stumbling blocks. So stumbling blocks are more maybe finances, you know, finding the brick and mortar to actually work out of. So what kind of things are available out there for women in terms of grants and foundations and things that are encouraging women business owners to actually branch out or to have their own business?
You know, we've got some great things going in Michigan, and I'm not an ambassador for them. I can't speak to them as well as they can, but the Michigan Economic Development Corp, SEED, I forget all of what it stands for, but you know, some of the things going on downtown, build some of the incubators, what they're doing is they're helping match up these business owners with the resources that are out there, with mentoring. Certainly SCORE, the Small Business Association,
absolutely.
Right? So they match people with funding to people who need to be funded. They match people with grants who just need some startup stuff. They don't necessarily want investors. So there are some great opportunities out there that I think are helping level the playing field. There's a lot of focus on women happening right now because we are a minority in the startup culture, and yet we start businesses. We start businesses at the rate twice that of men, and yet the amount of funding and publicly traded companies that are out there is a lot less, right? So there's a big disparity in that, and there's a lot of focus being brought to that right now. So it's not great yet, but I see that changing because we are a minority right now.
Yeah, I think we're on that track.
I do too.
think you know, in terms of the grants and in terms of the actually having women more encouraged, you know, to be out there as entrepreneurs. I mean, we were talking about, you know, corporate America and, you know, different sorts of positions for women, but now I think we're branching out, and the conversation is definitely out there. And I think maybe in a few years, you know, we might catch up.
I think so.
Create a time map to manage your time. I'm such a horrible time management person. I will, you know, sit there and try to get something accomplished, and 20 million things come my way. So, you know, I know that that's the right thing to do, is sit down and make sure that, you know, I get, you know, this completed at a certain time. So what advice do you have in terms of making sure that your time management is in place, because success equals time management?
Oh my goodness. Well, you've hit on like the #1 platform that I probably speak on.
Give it to me. Let me hear this.
I feel like the top challenge for any mom entrepreneur, but also probably every entrepreneur, is time. That's what we don't have enough. It's not that we don't have enough money. It's not that we don't have enough smarts. It's not that we don't have enough people in our network or resources to make it happen. It's that we don't have enough time. Because
and to do it correctly,
create more of it, right? Yeah. So we have a chapter in the book on time management. We have another chapter in the book on productivity.
Gonna read that right after
this. because this is one of the top challenges to actually feeling that success and being happy with your life and the way it turns out, is that, you know, 24 hours slips by again and again and again. And we all get the same 24 hours, yet some people look like they're really enjoying the way they spend their time. So
what advice would you give for someone that's struggling with time management, in terms of, you know, making sure that they get the kids to soccer on time, yet, you know, meet a deadline for work? I mean, what would be your three pointers to give to that individual?
Fast and dirty tips are, I'm going to go straight back to your priorities. I'm going to check in, right? Are you putting too many things? Do you have 17? Right? Because that may be why you can't get to soccer on time, because there are too many things that matter so much that they have to be done, that you actually haven't separated the wheat from the chaff a little bit and realized that, you know, being a good neighbor because your neighbor stopped in and, you know, she just got back from the hospital and she was talking to you, but you're late and you're trying to get out the door, but you have this mission in your life that you're a good neighbor. You don't turn somebody away when they show up at your door. And yet you are late for soccer again, right? So Sometimes the first step would be to check in on your priorities. Number 2, I live by my Google Calendar on my smartphone. And if it doesn't beep or buzz at me, I don't remember. So I have freed up my brain.
Oh, I'm so glad you said that.
Well, I don't worry about it.
I set the timer, you know.
Yeah, I do. So that's exactly. I use a timer and I use reminders. And then I don't have to trust my brain, which is not that reliable, to remember all these things that I have to get done in a day. I schedule
totally
it
relating
and forget about it, okay? And then make sure that it beeps and buzzes and reminds me so I get it done. And boy, has that saved me. And then the last one is really just, some boundaries and saying no, right? Pretty much, I'm going to guess most people who are struggling with, being on time and having too much to do, they're not saying no, they're saying yes. And that's always a great place to start.
And sometimes it's hard to do.
It's very hard.
Especially if it's something that you love and care about.
Very hard, very hard. But again, I go back to number 1. I'm going to keep throwing you in this loop.
The
What are your
priorities.
Right? Yeah.
So, making new friends. What's a suggestion to make friends that would absolutely be beneficial to your business and what you're doing? So maybe being around people that have your common interests. So what would be your suggestion for someone that actually wanted to go out there and do a little bit more networking?
I really feel like one of the things that helps me so much in this journey that I'm on as a mom entrepreneur is surrounding myself by like-minded people or by people that challenge and pull me forward. How
do you find those people?
I spend a lot of time online. I think most of us are on Facebook at this point. And, thanks to things like the technologies behind Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Blog Talk Radio, YouTube, Instagram, Pinterest, we wind up finding people that are connected by ideas and interests. It is so easy to join a group, to find a group, because of keywords that you're using, like mom, entrepreneur, network, right? I put those words in. A lot of things are going to come up these days, and I'm going to go feel and find a fit. And again, hit me if you don't want to hear me say this again, but priorities, think about what your priorities are and what is showing up in each of these groups that because you're going to have to make a selection. You're going to go through a selection process. And what's showing up in these groups that aligns and honors your priorities.
And you know what, too? I'm glad you brought that up. We are so reliant on being online and on Facebook and all these things. So what's the one-on-one? I mean, you want to go out there, you want to be one-on-one with people. I mean, I have a real hard time with, you're on your computer all this time. And even, our kids, they're not out there, on the playground and, meeting other kids. It's more online. But, for moms and for business owners, I mean, getting out there, physically and meeting people one-on-one. I mean, I know that there's a lot of networking, events that they have around town. But how do you manage that too? I mean, do you contact these people online, for that? Because business is successful with one-on-one.
Right.
So
yes, the bane of technology and our kids being plugged in all the time and us being plugged in, I hear that. I'm not carrying that torch. My torch is, thank God for technology that I can help do a quick search and find people that are most likely to be a decent match for me, right? I can go look at this networking group that you and I met at a fantastic group recently.
Absolutely.
And you know what? Their values, their mission, and who they bring together, their leadership, I honor, and that brings together the kind of people I want to be around. So
and that's what
I can
brought us together
that,
as well.
Right?
Absolutely.
And then look at the great connection.
A lot of opportunities, a lot of things. We could talk forever, and I hope you come back and talk a little bit more about in-depth business. I think it's so important for people to know the pointers and what you give. Your author, speaker, coach, you actually have organizations that you go and speak to as well. And we'll put your email address and website on the board so people can actually seek you out to be successful.
Thank
you so much for joining us on Off the Cuff. Wonderful conversation, and I hope to continue it very soon. And thank you all for joining us on Off the Cuff. We'll see you soon.